Mr. Murali Gomatam is a technology entrepreneur based out of the San Francisco Bay Area, which is referred to as Silicon Valley. He has an impressive track record of building technology, services, and outsourcing businesses. His area of interest and expertise is enterprise software and services and IT in multiple verticals, including financial services, high tech, and manufacturing. Mr. Murli has created and managed global teams. He has played leadership roles at leading global corporations such as ISGN, SAP, Applied Materials, Ford Aerospace, L'Oreal, and Think3. He co-founded Neptune Technologies with a vision of establishing a complete solution to multiple services in the field of information technology with software development, web development and hosting, outsourcing, and search engine optimization. Mr. Murli holds a BTech in Electrical Engineering from IIT Madras, India, an MS degree in Industrial Engineering and Operations Research from the University of Iowa, and an MBA degree from the Haas Business School, University of California, Berkeley. He has been a TIE Silicon Valley charter member since 2003 and enjoys mentoring and assisting entrepreneurs.
I think the process of building a company and being an entrepreneur, uh, of course, to some it may come naturally, but it is a skill that can be developed, and that can be taught, it can be learned, it can be practiced. Beyond a certain point, many skills can be taught, practiced, and gotten good at. So entrepreneurship is specifically focused on entrepreneurship, and assuming specifically in the technical domain, assuming that you have the chops to be a good computer scientist or a software or an electrical engineer or whatever the technical discipline, or a chemical engineer, whatever the case may be, you have that. Now you have the aspiration to become an entrepreneur. How does one go about building those skill sets? What is your offer going to be? Okay, sometimes you have an offer already in mind and you're just validating it. Sometimes you don't have an offer in mind, but you have a skill set, and you have a skill set and you think that there must be an offer. How do you go about doing it? So that is where the market research comes in, to find out where there is opportunity. But if you have an offer in mind, and most people at least have a general idea of what they want to do, then you can systematically go about building a case for how does this idea become a company. Sometimes you have to think big. If the idea is very small, it is not a company necessarily. It may be a feature in a product, but you have to sort of think through, is this a feature in a product, or is a small product, or is it a big enough idea that it can become a company. It's like doing a mind experiment. Okay, it's doing a paper experiment before you actually jump into the throes of actually building a company. And of course you have to go through fundraising. Whatever ideas that you have, you will have to convince the investor to invest in the company. Okay, that itself is a sufficiently intellectual exercise, because if you are able to, of course, convince yourself first that it's a viable idea, and then you'll have to convince investors and eventually the marketplace and your buyers and the entire ecosystem that this is a company that it is worth investing in, and it's got products that people should consume. People tend to assume just because you went to UC Berkeley or Stanford, you have a leg up in entrepreneurial activity. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think entrepreneurs can come from anywhere, from any school, any university. Um, it's a mindset, I think. Now, the fact that there is evidence to suggest that there are a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of Stanford and Berkeley. It's a function of many things. they are located in a certain area where there is a lot of ecosystem of entrepreneurs, for example, in Silicon Valley, right? And then similarly, there may be areas around the country within the US, for example, around Austin, Texas, or Chicago, or New York areas, or in the North Carolina area. So there is a Boston area, of course. That's how I would put it, because at the end of the day, what matters is what you do, right? And you will be recognized, and you can rise above the noise. You have to rise above the noise anyway, whether you go to good school or not, because at the end of the day, you know, investors will invest, not because you went to the right school, but because your idea has merits. I think the number one thing is the presence of venture capitalists, and I should say, I should generalize and say the presence of investors. Okay, venture capital is one type of investor. There are angel investors, there are institutional investors, there are investors by corporations, investment from corporations. There are many kinds of investors, but there is a um, plethora of such investors in Silicon Valley, for example. So that I would say that's number one. Number two is access to talent. The fact that there are many good schools around here, and it's easy to pick up talented people who are coming out of there, or either to come and do an internship in your company, or that you can hire. Maybe there are professors who are able, that you can consult with, who can be an advisor to you. So that's the second part of it, access to talent. The third is access to other kinds of um, functions that are needed to build a company, whether it is accounting, legal help, marketing help. Um, you do need. I mean, a company needs all this to function and to thrive and to grow. So especially initially, during the early days of the company, you need to incorporate the company, you need to decide on the corporate structure, you need to figure out how to distribute initial number of shares, you need to position the company to get investment, and you have to plan accordingly. So there is all the legal and financial aspects of it, and then you need the HR functions, and to be in place, some of it to attract talent, some of it for compliance purposes, and to manage people, etc. And of course, access to talent is always key. And so sometimes success breeds success. So if you happen to tap into somebody who's done this a few times, you get the feeling that he or she may have done this and knows how to go about doing it. So for them, um, they use the expression rinse and repeat, right? So you've done this a few times, you sort of you repeat what you've already done, right? So there is a huge advantage in doing that. That doesn't mean that first time entrepreneurs don't have a chance. It simply means that the first time entrepreneurs will have to figure out a way to learn from others, right? And learn from what has been already done. So those are the 3 or 4 things that I can think of. Access to capital, access to talent, access to other um, functions that are needed to build a company, whether it is legal or accounting or HR or marketing or sales.